Hi, my name is Randy Kim from the Banh Chronicles podcast, and I am very excited to bring on this guest here. And he is part of the Pop Pantheon podcast. His name is Russ Martin, who is a co-host, researcher, and producer for the Pop Pantheon podcast alongside DJ Louie, contributing deep dive research into pop star careers with a background in media. um, Russ helps analyze and ranks artists, focusing on the detailed, research-driven retrospectives of pop culture history. Now, I feel like I've been listening to the Pop Pantheon podcast for the past several years. I think like right after the pandemic, and as a person who really loves to nerd out on pop culture, specifically on pop nostalgia, currently and of the yesteryears as a millennial. I am such a fan. I feel like every Thursdays I'm listening for a good 2 hours about the breaking down of specific artists. I think the one that I really enjoyed the most was on Britney Spears and on Madonna, and that was like maybe a three-part series, which was about maybe running 2 hours each. So it was quite a lot of legwork to post so much information, even information that I completely forgot about. So I really appreciate the work that you put in. And as a fan of your show, sometimes I would ping you guys and ping you both. I'm pretty surprised that DJ Louis hasn't blocked me yet because I do annoy him. Yeah, and also I really appreciated you bringing my perspective on Janet Jackson's legacy too. So it's much appreciated that you had my voice featured on your show. So yeah, and well, thank you so much for being on my show. How are you doing? And yeah, what are your thoughts so far on this music landscape this year?
Well, first of all, thank you for listening to our show. Really appreciate it. A lot goes in, obviously, to those episodes when we are doing chronological deep dives into pop stars and we're digging way back and we have these very long episodes. And so we have cultivated an audience of people who love that kind of thing. And it is of no surprise to us that our listeners want to go deep and they have things to say. We deeply appreciate that. My thoughts so far, we have been in a bit of a main pop girl drought. For the first part of this year, a lot of the biggest names were quite quiet. Now, kind of all of a sudden, at the moment that we're recording this, a lot is going on. New music, Robin, Madonna, Casey Musgraves, Olivia Rodrigo, Lady Gaga, and Doechii. So suddenly there has been a huge flood of people coming back in terms of A-list mainstream pop. While things were quiet over the winter, I sort of reinvested in discovering smaller acts, and there's a lot of really cool stuff happening just outside the mainstream, as there sort of always is on any given year. We can debate at any time how pop has felt, and I'm using pop here sort of as the most mainstream, but also the genre of pop, which can sometimes mean that and sometimes not mean that. We can debate which years have good pop and which years have less good pop, but in any given year, you're going to be having musicians all over the field making really interesting and vital work. This year, I've been listening a lot to the new Underscores record. I just discovered Tiffany Day. The girl group Nona put out a really cool song called Work this year that I really like. So there's lots happening, but at that tippy top A tier, it was pretty quiet for the first little bit of the year. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you too because like for the last I don't know, maybe the last 6 months per se, it feels like men in pop music started to emerge a lot more
Mm-hmm.
recently. I mean, we also had Bruno Mars and Harry Styles' new album that came out, and it felt like in some ways that there was a long drought of men in pop stars. I mean, there's Benson Boone, but then now we had Justin Bieber's return back to the stage, which, it's very controversial for a lot of people. But like, I think it's very fascinating to see the push and pull between the genders and how that sets the table for pop music, for how it's gonna look like for this year. I mean, I think the summer's gonna be very interesting to see what happens. I mean, 2 years ago. I mean, we were in the Charlie XCX, Brat Summer, and the Rise of Chaperone, and the Espresso song by Sabrina Carpenter, and then Kylie Minogue before that with the Padam Padam.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder, like now with Madonna coming out with her album going to be at the age of 68, and Olivia Rodrigo, and some of the more established female artists. I wonder what that's going to look like for this summer, and what do you think, or what do you anticipate will happen during that particular time? Are we going to expect more maybe male summer anthems, or is it going to be more back to what we have seen the last couple of years?
I have my eyes on Zara Larson and Tyla. I think that that is a real contender for this summer. And thinking back to 2024, which was an incredible year and a really good summer for pop music, perhaps Zara Larson sort of rise mimics in some way what we were seeing that summer with Tinashe, with Charlie XCX, and maybe this like long standing, always the bridesmaid, never the
Mhm.
bride might
Mhm.
get to come into center stage. That is something I think could be a really rewarding and fun thing to track.
Mm. Yeah, so I'm very curious to see where this is heading towards, because I feel like we're gonna get more into the concert landscape these days, the concert going
Mm-hmm.
experience. I know you mentioned going into like spending more time focusing on smaller independent artists. I feel like that's just kind of where I'm starting to spend more time, and I started listening to Sudan Archives and Kane Koto, and I thought they were fantastic when I saw them live. And I'm like, okay, is there a place for independent artists these days to be able to perform consistently at venues without completely burning out or being nearly destitute? Because I think what we're seeing, especially with the rising cost of concerts in
Mm-hmm.
shows, it's pricing out a lot of regular fans. And Ticketmaster is still very much a behemoth giant and continues to or tack on more fees and limited availability because their bots would put them on the resale market. But I wonder about, gosh, like even the small artists. I mean, like for them to be able to perform, be able to like have to do their own laundry, go out on the road,
Mm-hmm.
and perform in like 30 cities in 35 days. I
Mm-hmm.
wonder what that looks like for the future of the investment of the concert going experience.
Yeah, I think it's tough. I would align it sort of to what is happening in Hollywood right now, in that the middle class of workers are really disappearing. It used to be that you could buy a house in the valley working as
Hmm.
a staff writer on a television show, and that sort of represented this real middle class. And then there was the entry positions, and there was also the people who were making millions, but there was a real steady middle class. And I think that what we have seen post pandemic is a shift in the economics of touring. The material costs of a lot of things that go into touring just shot up during that moment. Obviously, the most obvious being gas, but also accommodations for everyone who is working on the tour. Lots of the things that people rent for tours got backlogged, and then the prices shot up, and then they never really came back down. So it is more expensive to tour than it has been, and that cost has been passed along to the consumer. But I think that is not hurting the Harry Styles and
Hmm.
Bruno Mars of the world. That is hurting much smaller artists. Shirley Manson of Garbage
Hmm.
recently spoke out about this and saying they've decided not to tour the way that they have in the past anymore. And Garbage is a pretty big band.
Hmm.
Garbage has a well developed fan culture around them. They have a lot of name recognition in the marketplace. This is a band that has been established since the 90s that still gets cited as an influence a lot. Like, it's not as if they are some irrelevant band. They are a band that still has a lot of cool factor to them, and they are having a lot of trouble in this marketplace. And the
Hmm.
reason that Shirley spoke out, she has said, is not because of how it is impacting her, but how it's impacting the smaller artists. So yeah, it's certainly distressing to think about, and it's indicative of what is happening overall in the economy. at this moment in that everything feels like it's getting passed along to the end consumer and nothing is being absorbed by corporations who, by and large, seem to be doing kind of fine.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate this because I also wonder about the political landscape because there are artists that have taken some very interesting positions, like Nicki Minaj. We saw what happened with Kanye West recently with his SoFi um, relaunch of his musical career, and then you also have Usher and Chris Brown teaming up together for a tour, which is very confounding, but also that came in days after Usher had defended P. Diddy, and I just feel like, wow, this is such an interesting time. But we're also seeing a lot of um people, especially in social media, getting very fed up with a lot of these big artists that haven't spoken out about whether it's on Gaza or the Trump administration or basically enabling or supporting the administration. I mean, I just feel like I wonder, I know that this is like a question that we keep asking every single year. Is the day and age of celebrity culture dying? Is it finally putting it out to the pastures? I don't know if I have the answer to that, but it seems like there's more of a divestment in a lot of these big artists as of late. Or I could be wrong.
Yeah, I don't see that. I think that celebrity culture is probably shifting as opposed to ending. I think as far back as we can possibly go, there's always been notable people within any society that have functioned similarly to the way that celebrity functions today. But I see a shift towards different types of celebrities, different types of notable people who are popular amongst young people. Quite frankly, a lot of them are more right wing than a
Hmm.
decade or
Yeah.
two ago. Particularly if you look at in the influencer space, YouTubers, people who are popular as Twitch streamers, that type of a thing. I think some have gotten good at covering up their political leanings, but for some, particularly males who appeal to males, it doesn't seem to be a disadvantage to them. If
Hmm.
anything, it may be an advantage, but perhaps I'm being quite cynical.
Yeah. And then with the concert going experience,
Mm-hmm.
well, going back to our time capsule here, like I don't know what year was your first concert, but for me, I remember 2004. It was the Madonna Reinvention Tour. That was my first ever
Incredible.
concert, and what a concert that was to go into. And I had to kind of go into my time capsule of what it was like as a 21-year-old fan who had never seen her, who had looked up to her for God since I was like a little kid.
Mm-hmm.
And this was before camera phones, or right before camera
Mm-hmm.
phones were starting to take hold. Uh, Social media was in infancy and stayed on the desktop. And like yeah, I just remembered. I don't know if you've seen Madonna in concert before, but like I will say that one of the things that she does very often is when she doesn't really have openers or opening
Mm-hmm.
acts, and second, she does arrive fashionably late.
Yes.
And I remember this was summer, and the air was also off because she apparently likes to have the air conditioning off too. So I don't know what person could actually, try to circumvent city rules, I guess, or venue rules. But yeah, like we were waiting for like a good 2 hours. Just imagine not having your cell phone, not being able to scroll
Yeah,
through
yeah,
social media and
yeah.
complaining, and there were there were like there were some of the women's boyfriends that were like, "Come on, Madonna, we got to get to work tomorrow," and I just remembered seeing her coming out and doing Vogue, and she was doing the yoga pose, which was incredible, and I was pretty much taken. So I felt like I was not the same since, and that's kind of where my concert journey began. But I'm curious about for the beginning of your concert journey.
Yeah, well, I have seen Madonna, but not until more recent years. I saw the Rebel Heart tour
Mm,
twice, and I saw this most recent Celebration tour.
hmm.
We got a drink at a hotel lobby bar near the arena and said to friends who went early, "You can text us if it starts, but we're coming at 10." uh, so I did not miss a minute. I showed up right as she was going online, where she was going on stage, rather. I'm Canadian. My first concert was an artist who never really broke in the United States. Her name is Amanda Marshall. I don't know if you've ever heard
Mm,
of her.
vaguely, vaguely.
Yeah, she is an incredible singer songwriter. She had this really beautiful, raspy voice. It was only in the second grade, so my memory is a little bit limited, but I was completely taken away with the concert going experience from that point on. As a child, I started to read the newspaper so that I could circle what concerts were coming and ask my
Mm.
parents to take me to them.
Yeah, what made the concert going special to you when you arrive and see your favorite artist perform? And especially since, you can't take video footage, and there's something that's very special when you're an audience that is literally immersed into the performance and not on their cell phones or digital cameras even a few years later. I wonder what that must have been like, to just experience it. Did you feel like you were talking, making new friends, or did it feel like such a solitary experience for you to, to mentally prepare for the entire day for it?
Yeah, that was with my mom. I don't know if I made a whole lot of friends, but this particular performer says records is business, stage is soul. And
Mhm.
I think that there is a real truth to that. I think that there is a reason that live music has been a part of like almost all societies since almost forever. Uh, there is something about the act of seeing live music that is communal and is community, particularly as we are in increasingly agnostic societies. It is taking the place of that I think is a real human need for communion. I definitely found a sense of community later as a teenager going to pop punk shows, ska shows, hardcore shows. I was very much so a part of my local scene, and that was a really generative experience for me and a experience that taught me so much about being part of a community, taught me so much about politics. It was, yeah, very foundational to who I am to be part of that. And that was really centered much less on the type of experience that we're talking about. Going to see, a Janet Jackson level
Hmm.
concert is different than this was a lot of like going to local community centers, shows for, 15 to 30 people, shows where 50% of the audience was bands that were part of the lineup, nights that you
Hmm.
would see 9 bands at once, high
Hmm.
school bands, people who are just starting to figure out what making music is and doing that in a really messy and intriguing way in front of others. Yeah, so I think that that is for me historically a big part of the concert going experience. Now I am looking at it quite differently.
Hmm.
I will be 38 soon,
Hmm.
and now I am looking for venues where I have a seat.
Same here. Same here. I'm that same way too, because those standing room only shows, I'm like, one, I have to know who's performing. I have to know how my travel time is gonna be. I mean, I have to put a lot of things into perspective too. Yeah, the seating is important. I'd like to also sit on the side. That's another
Mm-hmm.
thing. The aisle seat's something I try to go for. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
feel like I feel like as I've gotten older, I don't know what it is. I always joke around to people saying that, look, I'm not gonna sit in those poverty seats. I'm gonna sit like in a decent seating. I'm too old enough to be sitting in the nosebleeds at this point in my life. But I think maybe it's because I've gone to so many shows, and I feel like I finally earned that rite of passage to, to spend more, I guess, and to have a real good experience. And but yeah, do you remember what it was like, what the ticket buying experience was like back in the day because I remembered like you could only get tickets through like the kiosk of like a Carson Pirie Scott, which is part of Bone Town, which is now gone, and then you could also go to an FYE Record Town and buy tickets there or over the phone, which
Mm-hmm.
I never had to do before. I cannot imagine the agony of buying tickets or you actually just waiting out at the venue in line, which,
Mm-hmm.
you know, did you have to do any of those experiences? Have
All of those, yes. I remember trying to get tickets to see Britney Spears on the
Oh wow.
phone. I must have been 8 or 9, and I
Oh
waited
wow.
on the phone for like 2 hours. I did not get them. I cried
Oh
a lot.
no. Which tour
Like,
was it? Which was it Onyx or was it Dream
no,
Within a
prior
Dream?
to that.
Oh, I think Dream Within a Dream, the 2001.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Oh wow.
Yes.
Wow.
No, I think before that.
Oops, I did it again.
Yeah, it would have been around
Wow.
Oops. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I also I remember physically going to a lot of places to buy tickets.
Hmm.
Record stores, box offices of small clubs.
Hmm.
Like often like back in the day, clubs would have box office hours. So you could go to
Hmm.
the box office. It would open at 3 o'clock, even though the club wasn't open until
Hmm.
9 or 10,
Hmm.
and you could buy a ticket that way. Sometimes businesses had Ticketmasters in them, like you could go buy tickets at the cashier. Yeah, a lot of tickets to small shows at record stores, but it also used to be much more of a thing to just be buying at the door.
Hmm.
Just show up, you pay at the door, you walk on in.
Hmm.
But that was also that speaks to the types of shows I was going to. Uh, I never really saw like a full pop music spectacular singing and dancing. I don't think until maybe the Monster Ball.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I think when we go back to that period of time, pre-sales were very, very exclusive back then. I mean, they were kind of an outlier, so most people were there for the general admission, the general sale open.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, the pre-sales were only restricted to a fan club. And now 20 plus years later, it's like there's a gazillion pre-sales, from
Mm-hmm.
Verizon to Spotify to MasterCard, Discover, American Express, you name it. And I feel like, well, the general on sale is basically obviously there's like I would tell people in the past, like, don't even bother with the general on sale. You got to get a pre-sale to even to be considered getting tickets. And um the minute that you're in the queue, like for about 5 minutes, those a good chunk of them are probably already gone. And especially with the bots that have now taken over and start scooping them up and putting them in the resale. So, yeah, like, how do you think over time, like, there was always a lot of fun anticipation, the excitement of, staying in line or, going online for the first time trying to get those tickets. Now it's like you're trying to figure out what is fair these days.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you have to have like these pre-sale codes. You've got to like make sure that you don't even know what the price of the concert is going to be anymore. Like back then, you at least knew what the range was. This time, it's like it's done in real time pricing. But how do you think that has affected your willingness to go to shows? Because I think this past couple of months, I started having this epiphany that like I don't know if I could see myself doing a lot of these shows anymore. Like I've already seen everyone that I want to see at this point, but it's just the Ticketmaster or the ticket buying experiences continues to be so difficult and just a miserable experience. Like, do I have
Mm-hmm.
time to wait for over an hour on a work day,
Mm-hmm.
and not get in trouble with my boss, get caught into a meeting, which did happen to me when I was trying to get the Lady Gaga Mayhem tour
Oh
tickets,
boy.
but I somehow got them. I mean, yeah, that's the wildness of it all. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I wonder about that for you. Like,
Yeah, there was a real sweet spot, I feel like, in the 2010s where you could kind of hunt around or be really plugged into a fandom and get a pre-sale code, and you could get a real cheap reasonable seat. I remember at the time, like the going rate for getting a pre-sale floor ticket was like 80 to
Hmm.
120 bucks,
Hmm.
that sort of a thing. I saw Gaga a bunch of times around that price
Hmm.
point. Yeah, now it is a lot. The Mayhem tour.
Yeah. Oh
I
yeah.
think I I'm I'm going to see as many shows as I probably ever have. I get to
Mhm.
write some of them off on my taxes. That helps a little bit.
Oh, good. Wow.
That's part of what I do. So
Hmm.
that's helpful. I think I'm always trying to be cautious about how many giant tours that
Hmm.
have high price tags that I'm seeing, and trying to focus some of my energy on smaller tickets. I saw Jay Stevens
Hmm.
last weekend. She's a really great like pop R&B singer. I'm going to see Hot and Freddie soon.
Hmm.
Getting tickets to these smaller, like there's a lot of great pop
Hmm.
shows, a lot of great across genres, but my expertise is in pop, and you can see a lot of great pop tours for $40 or $50
Hmm.
if you kind of try to get plugged into what's going on with smaller artists and start discovering new artists. And at that point too, it is more helpful, right, to go see someone. You can feel good about spending that $40 or $50, like it's contributing to somebody who is on their way up and somebody who is using that money to pay their phone bill, as opposed to using it for, I don't know, a Bentley.
Yeah, it's like back in the 2000s, it was typical for a concert ticket price to be like 25 to $300 being a luxury.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's like since 2016, we've seen tickets have shot up at $100 will get you like maybe at the minimum for a smaller act in some
Mm-hmm.
ways, maybe small to mid act. And now you're just looking at 4 to 5 figure marks, for a real good seat. And that's not doing the artist meet and greet or in some cases not even the VIP, which is
Mm-hmm.
also very astounding. Like we saw how much Taylor Swift tickets were going for. We saw how much Beyonce was fetching for Renaissance. And like the last couple of years I have spent a lot of money. I've got to meet Janet Jackson in person for one, and then I got to see Grace Jones when I flew to New York, saw Adele in Vegas, Beyonce twice for Renaissance, and then for Cowboy Carter, Paul McCartney. So let's just say that I have very expensive taste in artists.
Sure.
And so I think I realized, like, God, it's pretty sickening how much I've spent on the concerts, but also on the merch. Merch,
Mm.
like, you're talking now, it's like you're looking at 40 to $50 on a t-shirt, $100 on a hoodie. Um, Programs are like something that I like to collect, but they're becoming
Mm.
far few in between. But in the past they usually would run anywhere from $20 to $30. For the Beyonce Renaissance one, that was $100 for that sucker. And I was like blown
Mm-hmm.
away how massive an increase that was. Yeah, what I know we were talking about like your preference for small shows. Do you also enjoy the stadium, arena, or theater experience as well? Like, what are your feelings on those venues? Because I think for stadium and arenas, like I'm particular with which artist does it, like who could actually perform in an arena, what spectacle would they have? Because I think the worst concert for me that I did not like was The Weeknd back in 2017 when he barely had any spectacle. It was just
Mm.
him on a mic and at the United Center, and I just felt it was very disconnecting. And I'm curious about your own experiences in those bigger to mid-size arenas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think everyone is good in a covered theater. That is really a sweet spot. I think big acts going down to a covered theater always works. A
Hmm.
smaller act can often scale up to a covered theater quite comfortably. I do love a club show, but I would always choose a covered theater. I
Hmm.
think more so than venue, I think the timing in career is where I find the most excitement. I love to see an artist who is just connecting with a new or bigger audience, or performing a project that has really clicked with an audience. I recently saw Rachel Chinariri. I
Hmm.
felt that there's just like an electricity in the room. I saw two stops on the Midwest Princess Chapel Roan tour. The first was at a
Hmm.
small club, the second
Wow.
at a larger outdoor space. And similarly, just electric. I think so much of a concert is about what the audience brings, and there can be just like an energy in the room. Not everyone has the creative vision or ambition to do full arena spectacle. And so sometimes I find that a show is too small for the room that is in. You know, you see someone like Madonna or Gaga who are real masters of
Hmm.
arena pop spectacle. And that is really incredible, but that is something you have to work up to. I
Hmm.
just saw the Cardi B tour, and
Oh,
she's
wow.
so charismatic. It is
Yes.
so much fun to see her, and you can kind of see the seams a little bit because she's new to this, right?
Hmm.
Like she hasn't done arena pop spectacular, and you can see that the ambition is there, but the finesse isn't quite there yet, and that's okay because Cardi B is so damn
Hmm.
charming.
Yes.
Uh, but I can see the potential there. I think that she could really master it. Missy Elliott is somebody who I have recently, the last tour that she saw, I thought was just incredible. Like that's somebody who has incredible artistic vision, and in addition to being a really good beat maker, a really good rapper, a really good producer, of having this visionary quality in terms of the sonics, also is an incredible visual artist and is really tasteful in selecting choreography, selecting
Hmm.
costuming, things like that. Not everybody has that, and sometimes you will see an artist and be like, God, this would have been really good in a covered theater, but I'm not
Hmm.
sure that this belongs in an arena. The style of show, the way that the show is shaped, to me, in the pop sphere, an arena show is a certain thing. I've also seen some rock acts throughout the years, and I think that there was a format that was the
Hmm.
previous format of arenas, and that was the rock and roll spectacular. You know, I
Hmm.
saw Motley Crue many years ago,
Oh,
and they
wow.
had
The
female
time we bring
dance.
out the titty cam.
No, you didn't do that. I don't think. Maybe I'm not remembering. But Tommy's uh, drums get put in a cage, and it
Hmm.
flips upside down, and he
Wow.
drums upside down. They have female dancers come down from the ceiling on silks. Like it is this
Hmm.
full thing. There's lots of
Grandiose. Hmm.
pyrotechnics, that sort of a thing.
Hmm.
Uh, and I saw Aerosmith as
Hmm.
well.
Hmm.
You know, that was all. I think that informs. It's an old school, like Little Richard sort of invented this type of rock and roll spectacular. Elton John did it as well.
Hmm.
And in the 1980s, you see Madonna, Michael Jackson, Janet Jackson take that and make it into a new format for pop music. But not everybody, because so many people are in arenas now. We've seen a
Hmm.
lot of
Yeah.
scaling up of artists that I would have thought of as, and a few years ago would have been acts for amphitheaters, covered theaters, large clubs,
Hmm.
who are now at arenas. And it is not a format that is befitting of all of their
Hmm.
worlds as
Hmm.
musical creatives.
It reminds me of like the Lumineers reunited what they performed last year at Soldier Field of all places. I'm like, Lumineers, they were never that big, especially to perform at a place where it fits for the Beyoncés and the Taylor Swifts of the world, but the
Mm-hmm.
Lumineers and then
Mm-hmm.
Maggie Rogers. I mean, I like Maggie Rogers a lot, but for her to play at an arena just
Mm-hmm.
didn't seem to fit, you know.
Yeah.
So I was like, wow, some of these were head scratchers to me, and
Mm-hmm.
I wonder about how does this current generation of artists these days are like seeing how they perform live because you know, the last for a long time we're used to seeing Britney, Janet, Madonna, um, like Michael Jackson, Prince, those folks really elevated their game. The choreography was bar none incredible to watch and behold. And then like I feel like I feel like it's more scaled back. The
Mm.
choreography is more scaled back. There's more lip syncing. That's a or more singing with a backing track at the very least. So I feel like there's more scaling back. And then we've also had people like Selena Gomez and Miley Cyrus planning to exit out of the touring business. So I wonder what that looks like moving forward with the future of concerts for these
Yeah.
generations.
Yeah, well, I think for starters, the nature of pop stardom has really shifted, right? For the past 15 years or so, audiences have really shifted towards wanting to connect with musicians on a super personal and sometimes parasocial level. I think a lot of uh, Gen Z and maybe also Gen Alpha want to feel like the stories that are being told on stage are real. They're looking for authenticity and relatability as key factors in the artists that they're gravitating towards. You know, this feels like a shift that happened maybe sometime around Lord, but Billie Eilish is a really key
Hmm.
example here for me. I think that that is counter to the past when entertainers were like basically superheroes, right?
Hmm.
The reason now that people, I think, are buying tickets to concerts is often because they want to feel like they're part of something.
Hmm.
And to an extent, that has always been true. But in the past, that I think was more so true at the level of subculture. So that was true for genre spaces, that was true for musical genres that had entire subgenre subcultures associated with them, styles of dressing, ideologies. That was less true for big artists who would be playing at arenas or stadiums. But you do see some dynamism for sure in some of the current crop. I think Sabrina Carpenter is a really good example. I saw her last tour, and the sets were really incredible,
Hmm.
but she is an all around entertainer.
Hmm.
She is very thoughtful about working with large scale teams to make spectacle out of her show. She's someone that I would definitely point to as carrying the torch. She's not dancing certainly in the same way that Janet Jackson does, but Janet
Hmm.
Jackson was a pretty generationally
Hmm.
talented dancer. Zara Larson as well. The mic is on with Zara Larson. There is dancing. There are backup dancers. There's a whole world. She's doing that on a small scale thus far, but if you look throughout Europe, she has some pretty large venues that she fills. So there is certainly that style of dynamism. I just think that tastes have shifted a little bit, and you see that things come in
Hmm.
and out in terms of tastes. And you know, we also don't have like big singers the
Hmm.
way that we used
Right.
to. It's just a shift in what people are looking to connect with. And I hope that some of those things come back, but
Hmm.
we'll see.
Same. Yeah, and I also wonder about K-pop concerts too because they are mammothly huge. And I went to a Twice concert 2 years ago, I believe,
Mm.
and this was my first K-pop concert, and yeah, to hear the teenage screaming, the people mimicking the choreography. I mean, that's a dedicated fan base
Hmm.
that really blows my mind. I wonder where do you see it taking place in the next decade? Is it here to stay for the long haul, or is it kind of like seen as a fad? Although I know people will kill me for even
For
suggesting
having
such an idea, but I'm curious about the musical shift. Is do we see K-pop evolving um more and more? Do you like, let's say, if Blackpink reunites in 20 years, would people come out to see them, or if they're going to still be able to have that staying power? I wonder about that.
Yeah, you know, BTS recently came back after several years because they each of the members had to complete their mandatory military
Military.
service that
Hmm.
everyone in Korea, every citizen of Korea, has to do. And the response to their comeback was absolutely massive. And in many instances, the music market just moves on. And so to see them come back, I think that's a real sign of longevity for the genre. However, not my own original reporting, but I have spoken to several journalists recently who told me that K-pop, which in Korea isn't called K-pop. In Korea, it's
Mm,
called idol music.
mm,
And idol music in South Korea has waned in popularity
mm,
in recent years, and different forms. They have what's called, I believe, ballad music. Apologies if
mm,
I am misspeaking. Rock is actually pretty popular. There's a
mm,
lot of other genres that have sort of taken over in Korea, while the K-pop industry is now looking to markets outside of South Korea
mm,
to market music too. So it will be interesting to see to what extent losing that home base is going to for this genre that is focused on pop idols. I
mm.
have no idea, not a
Wow.
clue, but it's a really interesting thing to watch. And it has been very interesting as well in the United States to see how many people uh, over the course of the past 10 years have shown that they are willing to listen to music in languages that they don't actively speak, or that they don't speak proficiently or are not their native language. The rise in K-pop has in some ways been linked to the rise in like Latin pop and the
Mm-hmm.
rise in Spanish language rather music in the United States more broadly. I think that there was a lot of pressure for so many years. Whatever your native language was, if you wanted to be popular in the United States, what the industry would tell you, what label reps, A&R, etc., would be giving to you as advice as a musical artist would be to make music in English. And it doesn't seem to be the case anymore that you need to do that, or that you need to entirely do that. There's been a lot of mixing of language and mixing of culture that we have seen over the course of the past 10 or 15 years that has been really different from our generation. When you look at, say, an act like Shakira, who
Mm-hmm.
had to, you know, acts like her either had to make music in English or in Spanish, and they were
Mm-hmm.
marketed to different places.
Mm-hmm.
But a large part of America speaks uh, Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people speak Portuguese. There's a lot of non-English speakers across America, and that is, a big part of that musical market. And I think that applies to any form of popular music that is inherently linked to cultural traditions or even just to nationality.
Mm. And shifting gears, like what would you say was the most memorable experience you had witnessed that an artist that you saw on stage shocked you? Yeah.
Shocking. Oh gosh. What has really shocked me? Do you know what? I saw Lady Gaga break her hip.
Whoa, really?
You remember when she was in a
Wow.
wheelchair?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, I was
Oh
there.
my
That happened
goodness.
in
Wow.
Montreal. On this most recent tour, she had to cancel Montreal again. And I was like, man, there's a curse on Montreal with that woman. I don't know that she should ever go back there. But yeah, I remember that was the Born This Way ball. And we had already seen it, I believe, in Toronto, and we went to see it in Montreal. And there was a moment in the show when she goes out on her knees and sort of slides down the runway. And I'm 90% sure that is when she broke her hip. You could tell the rest of the night she was unusually giving it her all. She
Mm.
was just like leaving it all on the stage. And we were like, that was so incredible. Oh my God, we got to get tickets to another show, some leg of this tour. We were like looking up different places that we could go on the train ride back home. And we got notifications that she had broken her hip and canceled the tour.
My goodness. Wow.
Yeah.
What a thing to witness. And I think for me it was Zach De La Rocha from Rage Against the Machine performing at Lollapalooza in
Cool.
2008. And
Mm.
at that time, Barack Obama was running for president and I mean there were people wearing their Obama shirts because there were rumors that he was going to show up to
Oh,
Lollapalooza, and also at
sure.
that time Kanye was one of the headliners. So there were rumors that he might be at that set. That never happened. But on that night, the crowd was getting violently insane. It was like so much so that Zach had to keep telling the audience to move back several times, and
Mm-hmm.
people were breaking in from outside. And then there was one moment where he had a speech and directed to um, presidential nominee Obama, and he said, "Well, brother Obama, if you don't do what the people want, we're gonna have people like at your doorsteps." And mind you, they are a very leftist progressive band, and a lot of people were shocked. I had my Obama shirt on at that time, and I was like kind of covering it up a little bit. It's like, okay, this is interesting, but yeah, that was basically a call, but that was one chaotic set that I had experienced with 3,000 people literally moshing, and it was very it was very unpleasant.
Wow.
Yeah, that was one. Yeah. Yeah. What would you say are the biggest pet peeves at a concert?
Mm. I really don't like when a show is oversold.
Mhm.
Especially, I
Yes.
find that this happens at clubs. I think that they
Mhm.
sell tickets assuming, as you can do as a event promoter, usually something like only 80% of people who buy tickets to any given event show up to it. But for a really hot act, 100% of the people who have
They
tickets
are
seem
gonna
to
be
show
there. Yeah.
up. And yeah, I hate it when people get crammed into a space, they act funny, and that is not their fault, is the fault of the promoter and the venue. But yeah, I really hate going to a show where I feel claustrophobic.
Same,
Yeah.
same. It's also a thing that I do not like, and I will also say that one experience I had was a at a Beyonce Jay-Z show in 2018, the On the Run 2.
Mm.
There was a guy with his girlfriend. He had on very strong cologne. I kid you
Mm.
not. And
Sure.
I was furious. I was like, oh my God. And I think I was like texting or messaging on Facebook. I said that I hope that she breaks up with him after this show because this is so offensive to me. But he luckily left before it started, so that was a miracle.
Oh
But
wow.
it was gonna kill me. Like I was gonna have a headache, or a lot of people were gonna get headaches
Yeah.
from the secondhand smell of it. But that is a pet peeve of mine. Um, I will say, like people who record the entire show and never put
Mm.
their phone down. Like I know I am guilty of recording. Like maybe I'll do like a no more than 30 or 40 seconds of a clip and I'll put back and I'll just, be immersed. But yeah, like sometimes I do get very annoyed when people are very much oblivious to it and or very drunk and not even
Sure.
paying attention to the show. So those are pet peeves of mine. But I think I'm getting at the age now. I don't know if you're feeling it, but
Yeah.
when yeah, 10 o'clock hits, you're like, God, when is the encore gonna start? Like, and I will start looking at the set list ahead of time, so I will have to see, do I want to leave when Usher does? Yeah, of course. Like I want to know what the songs are gonna play at the end that I can actually leave and get to the parking lot quick enough.
Yes.
So yeah, do you see yourself doing that more often? Because that's starting to happen to me more.
Oh, I'm a real proponent of this. I think for me, it has to do with how I was raised. I remember being a kid, and my dad would do that when he would take us to baseball games.
Hmm.
Just like anything to beat a crowd
Hmm.
was my father's philosophy. So I'm a checker. I'm setlist FM. I know what the set list is going in. I hate an encore. I think that the
Same.
most respectful thing that you can do is just finish your damn show.
Same. I know.
Uh, yeah, with concert etiquette, I think that I'm starting to feel it shift,
Hmm.
and that is just getting older. There is a certain strain where I have seen people essentially using concerts as a place to capture their own content,
Hmm.
uh, including lighting themselves, and
Hmm.
uh, it's certainly disruptive. I ask myself the question when I'm getting annoyed at that: am I the target for this act? And if I
Hmm.
am not, then cool how annoyed you are.
Yeah.
Uh, because, cultural norms around this type of thing shift. What is acceptable and unacceptable behavior shifts. And should we maybe push back on it? Yes, but if I'm going to see a show that is being essentially marketed to young women, then maybe no one needs an almost 40-year-old man being like, turn off your
Hmm.
ring light.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think there was something I was just gonna say to that, but like, um, I think when I go to a show, I think about like, okay, do I want to see the opening act? When do
Mm,
I come in? Because I do like to get in early so I could actually absorb the environment. And sometimes I've had to sit through like really bad opening acts, against my own will, against my better judgment. Um, but what artists do you regret not seeing when they were still alive or when they are now retired from touring?
so I've never seen Elton John.
I
Uh,
have, yeah.
yeah, I
Hmm.
do. I do wish that I would have. I've never seen Elton. I've never seen Celine, who is now only performing in Vegas or
Yeah,
Paris or,
Paris. Yeah,
yeah, certain. The last Celine tour was just so expensive that I'm
yeah.
like, that is out of my price range. Uh, but I would love to see her. Tina Turner
I
certainly
know, me
is
too.
one.
Me too.
Yeah, my mom saw Tina Turner and she still
Oh,
talks about her legs. Every time she brings it up, she says, her legs, that's what I remember from the show. Her legs were just incredible.
as they are. I mean, she was in the Hanes commercial for a long time, for a reason. Yeah, for me, it would be Prince. I regret
Oh,
not seeing Prince
yeah,
when I had the chance, and it really annoys the hell out of me that to
sure.
this day, Tina Turner being one of them, I would love to see Sade. I don't know if she's ever gonna tour
Tour,
because it's
yeah.
been 16 years, and I'm like, you've got to, you can't just go out like this. Like, give us one more. So I'm hoping that that's gonna happen. Who else would be another one that Amy Winehouse, of course.
Mm,
Um, I I don't know who else would be a good one. Carole King. Carole King would be another
mm,
one too. I would love her to do Tapestry, but I know she's in her 80s, so probably unlikely. But although Paul Simon and Paul McCartney were touring in their 80s,
mm-hmm.
so not out of the question there. Um, yeah. And as we wrap up, what can you say about what you're currently doing with Pop Pantheon? I don't know. I know you don't want to reveal too much, but like in terms of like, what are you looking to spend more time with? Like, are you looking to do more deep dives on specific artists? Are you looking to talk more about the trends in the concerts um and the current musical landscape shift? What's in it for you guys so far?
Yeah, so Pop Pantheon is a show that explores the world of pop stars in detail. We cover everyone from Diana Ross all the way down to Jessica and Ashley Simpson.
Hmm.
We do seasons covering mega pop stars. That is something that we are very plugged into. Our archives include seasons on everyone from Prince and Michael Jackson to Beyonce. We are also constantly wanting to do smaller acts, smaller being still mega pop stars,
Hmm.
but ones who are smaller than Beyonce or Prince. So we are always looking to explore different eras, explore different subgenres, parts of the world of pop. So that, and then having a lot of fun with the format that we call our B sides, where we do lists. Lately, we have been doing what we call a draft, where we bring a panel together and we decide the list of the best songs from a artist or songwriter. So we have loads and loads of fun. You can find us at poppantheonpod.com.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I hope people get a chance to listen to Pop Pantheon Podcast, which is available on all streaming networks. And also, if you subscribe to them through Patreon, you do get the additional content as well, too. So, yeah. This is great. This has been amazing. Thank you so much. And I really look forward to hearing more of your show. But thank you so much for this fun conversation on the concert going experiences and what we can, look back on and what we can maybe predict in the future. I mean, we could be wrong for all we care, but yeah, I think this has been wonderful. So thank you so much, Russ. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Randy.